I had to put myself back in the place where my father took me and my brother to tell us that he was going to leave the house. And I'm like, what you mean? So you just not going to be at the house no more? What's going to happen to us? Peace, 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 peace. Peace. So, the process of healing can be very counterintuitive because we tend to want to run from or escape from what harmed us. When we have trauma, though, even more than what happens, the reason it's traumatic is because we don't understand what is happening and or why it's happening. Why does this is not how life is supposed to go. You know what I mean? This doesn't feel good. Why does this feel so bad? If this feels so bad, why is this person who loves me or who's around me or just this person at all doing this? Does it feel bad to them too? Do they not care that it feels bad to me? What is going on? So then you go through life avoiding it. And a lot of times, sometimes, depending on the trauma, people blame themselves for things that happen. And they blame themselves in a way that now they look at themselves as inadequate or as problematic. And that's not the truth, right? So when I say it's counterintuitive, it's because you want to run from it. But really, after experiencing more of life and gaining a better understanding of what goes on, of right and wrong, of what is healthy and what is unhealthy, of gaining a better understanding of that some people make sense and some people just don't make sense. You know what I mean? Some people think some ways that seem helpful. Some people think ways that just don't. It's like, how do you even get like that? You know what I mean? You see, like, you learn selfishness versus selflessness and how they work together. How perspective affects emotion and affects impact. You know what I mean? Something could happen to one person and it breaks them down. The same thing could happen to another person and it builds them up. All of these different aspects of life and understanding help us to heal ourselves when we revisit our traumatic experience. Because again, trauma comes from the misunderstanding of what happens, even more so than what happens, right? Say, one thing, don't ever compare your trauma, right? But I'm going to give this example of myself just so you can understand what I mean by gaining understanding and revisiting it in order to heal yourself. So, my parents were married when I was born. They divorced when I was 6. My father left. He didn't leave. He left the house. He left my mother. He didn't leave me and my brother as a father. I always appreciated that about him. But like, he just moved to the other side of town and kept working to build his life. He did what he had to do at the time, right? But me, I was 6, so I saw the way my mama felt, and I didn't like it. Side note, my mother was very honorable about the way she went about it. She never ever spoke bad about my father to me or my brother on purpose. She knows how that could affect a person's life, and she didn't want her feelings towards him and his actions to affect the way my brother and I, to affect our relationship with our father. She told me that later on in life. I was probably like 24, 25. Actually around the time, 23, 24, 25, around the time when I actually healed myself from this experience, my misunderstanding of this experience. So I didn't like that she felt that way. And I had an issue with him, my own issue with him for a while. You know what I mean? We always saw him, and I didn't like act out on it. It just was certain stuff I resented him in a way for leaving the house and making my mama feel the way she felt. Because although she never talked about it to us, she can't hide her feelings from me. I knew how she felt. I could see it. I could feel it all the time. She didn't try to do that. She didn't talk about it because she didn't want to affect it, but she can't hide it. It is what it is, right? But as I went along in life, I think I was, 23, 24, 25, something like that, when I really, and it's funny because I had actually lived with him. Like, we used to go back and forth and live with him like for like 5 out of 12 days. So every other weekend we'll go with him, right? But after I went out to school, I came back, I stayed with him for like 8, 9 months. And I still like we had a relationship, and I was always cool with him, but it was like later on, it was like within the next year that I realized that I still had resentment in my heart. And I looked at the situation. I had to close my eyes, breathe, right? Clear my mind, and then put myself back in that situation. I had to put myself back in the place where my father took me and my brother to tell us that he was going to leave the house. He wasn't going to be living at the house anymore, right? And I'm like, what you mean? My brother was only 2, so he's not really aware of what's going on, I don't think. So he didn't get affected the way I got affected. Or he didn't take it the way I took it. He didn't see it the way I saw it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he sat us down, he told us, and I'm just like, yo, so you just not going to be at the house no more? What's going to happen to us? And that was the beginning of my resentment, right? But putting myself back there at early, mid-20 something, it was like, I looked at it like, man, because I had relationships. I had left relationships. I had been left in a relationship, or maybe relationships, right? But and by that point, it was like, I don't have kids, right? But I still understood. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Sometimes you gotta keep moving, right? And then I understood he kept moving, but he didn't leave us. He left the house because the relationship was over. That part, that form of the relationship with him and my mother. But like, he did his best to still be with me and my brother. Side note, I think that same conversation, I think I was telling my mama that I was about to talk to him or something like that. Or I told her that I had forgiven him or something, and she told me that I realized he did, like, I'm proud of him because he did way better way better than he knew to do because he wanted to, right? Like his father left the house and that whole situation was totally different. Like they didn't see him. He stayed on the other side of town. They didn't see him at all. He had a whole nother taking care of somebody else's family, got them looking fresh at school, in the same school, and his kids, my father and them, looking broke and poor, and it's like, it was crazy. So I see this and I'm like, dang, my pops did great. Like, he was in advancement. He improved upon what he experienced as a kid. You know what I mean? And all of this to say that when you got a better understanding of what's going on in the world, you are better equipped to heal yourself and even heal other people. Because now you can close your eyes, revisit that moment, and forgive yourself. Even forgive the other person. Forgive the offender. Now I know some of y'all, some of us, depending on what we've been through, it's like, forgive the offender. Do you know what they did? How could I forgive that person for what they look? If you can't forgive that person, you really ain't forgive yourself. You can't move on. You choosing to continue to be a victim. You're not acknowledging that that person is a part of the soul entity that we are living as. We live in flesh. We are the soul entity, live in flesh. We all a part of it together, right? And you forgiving or not forgiving that person is the difference between you perpetually victimizing yourself and choosing to be a victim of life, or you victimizing yourself and choosing to become the victor, choosing to take your experience, what you experienced and what you learned, you choosing to learn from it and move forward with that learning, or you choosing to not learn from it and move forward without learning. See what I'm saying? It's like in school, when you learn a new concept in school, right? Before you learned it, you didn't know it. When they teach it to you, you still probably don't know it, right? In that moment. But then you take the quiz, you take another quiz, you take another quiz, you take the test. You pass the test, prove that you learned it. You fail the test, what do? You learn it again till you can pass the test. So basically, you accepting that this experience was a learning. It was something, a part of your path for a reason of why you are here in life. Something, everything we go through makes us the person we need to be to continue to go through, to continue to go on, right? And we either choose to stay where we are and struggle because we see ourselves as a victim, or to move on to the next lesson, on to the next grade, on to the future, to a different experience, a greater experience, because we have chosen to be the victim. Now, well, all we have to do, right? Not all, but it starts with breathing, closing your eyes, putting yourself back in that place, and applying the knowledge of life that we have now to what happened and what we didn't understand. You forgive your younger self. You might cry because you're going to feel for your younger self because you're going through that again. It might be scary for a moment, you know what I mean? But That's the goal, to get past that fear. A lot of trauma is continuing to be afraid of it for the rest of your life because you never tried to understand it. You never tried to make it make sense based on your experience since then. And you can do that. This is how we heal ourselves, right? This is how we forgive that younger self. This is how we free our younger self from the prison of trauma. Free that inner child from that prison so that you could live. This is how we heal. It's just one way that we heal from certain kind of experiences, right? But when you breathe and you forgive that your younger self, you forgive that other person, because if you don't forgive them, you're not forgiving yourself. You gotta forgive yourself. You gotta forgive that person, because that person didn't know right from wrong. Or you didn't know. In my situation, right? I didn't know right from wrong. I didn't know how life goes. My father didn't do nothing wrong. I ain't saying I wasn't in the moment all the time when my parents were talking or whatever, so I ain't saying he did everything perfect. But as far as my resentment towards him, he actually did a good job of navigating the situation when I look at it, right? And as I got older and I healed myself, I realized it was no harm, no foul. Nothing was going wrong, right? And at that point, I had freed myself to move forward as a better person, to stop repeating some of the trouble I had, because I was trying to make things work. I was trying to serve my mama. I was trying to be a better person than my father was to my mother, to the women that I dealt with. And it just caused me to perpetuate the same cycle and the same pain, because I'm getting in a situation and staying in the situation longer than necessary, because I'm trying to make it work. You don't have to make too much of nothing work. You know what I mean? So see yourself. Forgive yourself. And you'll be able to see how you've been affected, how you've really been affected, what you have perpetuated, or what you've been blocked in doing because of your trauma, because you hadn't forgiven and healed yourself. And you'll be able to move past that and move forward. You feel like a brand new person. Ooh. Healing. Peace. I will heal. We will heal. Together. Subscribe. Let's get it.